game of the season. It's probably, I'm not defensive about it.
Yes, people, what's happening? Welcome back to the channel and welcome to another video. First things first, guys, make sure you smash the like, subscribe if you're new around here, all of that good stuff. And as always, leave your thoughts in the comments below. And before we dive into today's video, guys, just a quick shout out to Jersey's FC Soccer Shop, guys. You can use code BLUEBROTHER for 20% off your Chelsea kits and free shipping. Link will be in the description and it will be in the pinned comment as well. Names, numbers, all sorts of different stuff that you can get on there. And the quality is really good as well at affordable prices, guys. You can get your hands on whatever Chelsea shirt you want. I've got this season's away shirt here, good quality badge, all that stuff, you know, guys. So make sure you check it out. Jersey's FC Soccer Shop. Link will be in the pinned comment and the link will be in the description. And let's dive into today's video then, people. And we're going to be dissecting Todd Boehly's comments because he spoke last night at the Financial Times Business of Football Summit, speaking about a range of different topics, including Chelsea, including the project, including the recent fan protests, plus other things more general about the Premier League as well. And let's get into that. The first thing I do want to say is that this is my opinion. I don't speak for the fan base. I speak for myself. And if people don't like my opinions, that's absolutely fine. Okay, but I'm speaking for myself. I'm not speaking on behalf of the fan base. I'm not speaking on behalf of Chelsea Fan TV. I'm speaking for myself and giving my own opinions. Now, first thing I want to say is, whether you agree or disagree with anything that Boehly said on Thursday night, I appreciate the fact that he actually was prepared to come out and speak on these things, you know. And a lot of people disagree, and I don't agree with everything that he said either. But the main thing is, though, guys, is that at least he actually comes out and speaks about things, and he tries to explain the thought process behind it, whether you agree with it or not. We all know that long-term success is really important here, but there's got to be a few tweaks here to bring some experience in so we can win now. Let's start with his comments then, guys, on I just want to start with, by the way, saying that these quotes, these comments, these things that he was saying, that he said on Thursday night, they don't add anything negative to the current situation whatsoever. All it highlights was that it's going to be a massive summer for the football club and potentially era-defining within this current ownership, you know. And this is something that needs to be spoken about more. This is an era-defining moment, this summer transfer window coming up. If they don't bring in any world-class players, then that's the confirmation that they're happy to be a top 4, top 5 club and trading players for profits. And you can write off the next 5 to 10 years at that point. And, you know, what we're doing right now is, just to be honest, it's not good enough to be a top 5 football club. You know, they're allowing us to be around the rest of the Premier League with this strategy. You know, if they fix up, but right now it looks like they're refusing to do that, we would be a comfortable top 4 club. And that's exactly what we need right now. But let's start with his comments then on the ownership dynamic, because we remember it was one of the international breaks last year. Can't remember which one it was, with the story coming out that Boehly and Eghbali weren't getting on there, exploring potentially trying to buy one another out. That's all gone very quiet on that front. And you know what he says on this front, that there's nothing to be negative about, by the way. The one thing I've learned about the British press is they exaggerate a lot and they leave stuff out. I'm not going to comment. We have agreed on the strategy and a way forward, and stuff is getting done. And I don't look in the rear view mirror. Okay, that's fine. You know, no problem for me. British press absolutely exaggerate things, absolutely leave stuff out to try and make a better story. You know, the British press don't cover themselves in glory at all. And yeah, I think a lot of stuff probably was massively over-exaggerated in regards to that falling out and whatnot, supposed rift with Boehly and Eghbali and Clearlake. Look, he says they've agreed on a strategy moving forward. Stuff's getting done. He doesn't look back. No problems with those comments whatsoever. Absolutely no issue with that there. And what he says about the British press is absolutely spot on. So there's no issues there with anything that he has said at all on that front. If we move away from that, I think the big thing was the Chelsea, about speaking about the recent protest. And let's bring up his comments on that. I just think it's par for the course. The sooner you learn you are not going to keep all the people happy all the time, the freedom shows up. We are just trying to execute a plan and recognize things aren't linear. And we are trending in the right direction. The trend is moving in the right direction. And that's the thing that really matters. In June, it will be 3 years in charge. That's not a lot of time, especially when you get to 50, 60 or 70 years old in life. It's a whirlwind of activity and steep learning curve. But I think that's also a good thing. Now, pretty standard, as absolutely as expected, batting off that criticism. These billionaire owners, they've got thick skins. They're not really that fussed. And look, ultimately, I don't see a problem with those comments that he's made there. It is par for the course. You're not going to keep everyone happy. Chelsea fans aren't happy with the current model. And there needs to be an acceptance. Can we please deviate away from that? Just slightly to bring some experienced players in. Are we moving in the right direction? I think that's open for debate. We're certainly doing better than we were at this point last season. Let's see how the season finishes. And he is right that 3 years in charge is not a particularly long amount of time. And I just think that the problem you get when you've got owners speaking and stuff is that people dissect every single word that's being said to try and drive their narrative, to try and drive their agendas one way or the other, rather than being objective and looking at things with a balanced view. And this is the problem with the whole content thing, with the whole sort of football fandom thing, is that so many people lack balance when talking about things. So many people lack balance. They're so ingrained in their narrative or their agenda one way or the other that they will refuse to acknowledge any other viewpoint or anyone trying to provide any sort of balance. And then they just get mad at you and accuse you, brown envelope this, or being paid by the club because you don't lose your head or you don't have the same opinion as them. Why are people dissecting every single word? I'm not dissecting every single word. I'm just going through a few of the main talking points. But people just micro-analyze everything. And the problem is, once people have decided they cannot stand someone or they hate someone, they literally micro-analyze every single word and every single sentence they say. And it's just not healthy. It's just not healthy whatsoever. But I wasn't expecting any sort of different answer from this. Whether we agree with them or not, and I personally don't, and a lot of fans don't, they've got a plan and they're going to stick to it. Okay? You can put pressure on as fans, and I think more pressure does need to be put on. Of course it does. But, he's right. Things aren't linear in football. Chelsea fans are impatient. 3 years, the amount of money that we've spent, if the money had been invested better, we should be competing for the major trophies with this level of investment. But I don't really have an issue with anything that he has said there. People wanting him to say things differently or expecting a different answer are just very much mistaken on that front. He was never going to come in and go, oh, yeah, by the way, we're going to change the model now. Oh, by the way, the fans are absolutely right to do that or whatever. It is par for the course. It is absolutely par for the course on that front. I think one answer when he was asked about the Chelsea ownership, I don't know what people were expecting him to say. It's a bit of a stupid question, really. Was that Todd Boehly's asked whether the Chelsea ownership will be the same this time next year. Listen, I can't predict the future. If I could, I wouldn't be here talking to you. Now, it doesn't exactly fill you with optimism. It doesn't really exactly fill you with confidence. But what exactly was he going to say? Oh, yeah, it is, or no, it isn't. It's a standard answer. It doesn't mean they're going to sell up, but it means that, in terms of who is in the majority in charge, maybe there could be some changes. Who knows? But they're trying to get like a bit of a gotcha question in there, which, was inevitably met with the exact sort of answer that you would predict. The reality is that no one really knows. What really needs to happen is we need Boehly to buy out Eghbali and Clearlake for the club to be in a better position. Look, Boehly's not perfect, by the way, but he's far less of a problem than Eghbali, Clearlake, Feliciano, and the decision makers that are driving things that the club are doing. Boehly's not involved in day-to-day running, hasn't been for well over 2 years now. He's more on the business strategy. He's more on the sporting strategy side of things, as you can tell by the things that he talks about. This guy's not involved in the day-to-day running. Yes, the vivid seats thing doesn't reflect well, doesn't look good, massive conflict of interest, and there was no thoughts on that. No questions were asked about that. But look, he's by far the biggest from the biggest issue at the football club. The interesting comments, though, for me, were ones that were surrounding recruitment, and the long contracts and things like that. You know, on the recruitment side of things. And I understand what he's saying to a certain degree on the recruitment side of things. We look at how do we put a team together that stays together. If you look at the great dynasties in sport over the years, they all had superstar captains for many years. And part of what we look at is how we find that superstar captain or player that can stay with the team for their career. Now, look, I appreciate you want to build something that has long-term success. You don't want to just like win a couple of trophies and then be not competing again for a number of years. You want a sustained level of success. I understand that. And I appreciate that, you know, the aim is to be successful in the long run. However, there needs to be an acceptance that what about the short and the medium term? What about the here and now? Because this strategy that we're doing right now is not conducive to short-term success. So there needs to be a minor adjustment, bring some experience in, bring some winners in so that we can still have that long-term success. We can still try and build a dynasty. We can still have players that will spend the majority of their careers here, but they're helped by players that might come in for 2 or 3 years, do a job, help the team win trophies, and then move on. You know, so yeah, I understand the long-term thoughts here, but I'm majorly concerned by a lack of short-term planning. It would appear a massive lack of short-term planning. Just a couple of other bits, guys, in terms of the 7-year, the long contracts. And I never really thought about it this way, to be honest, because you know it's people so often so easy to get bogged down in one way of thinking. A 7-year contract is really a 5-year contract because the reality is 95% of the time you're going to have to make a decision or you shoot yourself in the foot. You are either able to come to terms and agree an extension or agree there are greener pastures out there. That's the reality of the model. If you deny that, you're kidding yourself. So look, a 7-year contract, I get what he's saying, is really a 5-year. When there's 2 years left, you decide whether to sell up or you decide whether to extend. And that way you avoid losing players on the cheap and you avoid losing players on a free transfer. I've got no issues with what he said there at all. Absolutely no issues whatsoever. In terms of just the last brief couple of points on this, guys, he's talking about the most misunderstood part of the project. The most misunderstood thing is we are thinking about measuring success in years. You have to think both short and long term. We are focused on a combination on both those things and seeking the best way to execute. Right now, guys, you haven't got the best way to execute right now. Sure, long term, we could be we're probably maybe set up much better than we are in the short term. That's why, as I said, there needs to be that adjustment, massive adjustment. It's a balancing act. Strikers are hard to find. You don't go into the grocery store and say, I'm going to get a striker. It is an amazing skill set and you have to have the right mentality. Yeah, sure, absolutely. But there are players out there that we can get that are feasible in us signing. And so far, we've actively overlooked that. So again, massive summer coming up. They're not measuring success in years. They're looking at, you know, many years into the future. You do have to think both short and long term. Absolutely. They're thinking long term. It feels right now there's a massive lack of short term thinking, as emphasized by the recruitment process, as emphasized by the fact there's no leadership, no winners in the current squad, which is definitely affecting us. And the last bit I wanted to go through, because I'm seeing people losing their minds. Oh my God, he wants to Americanize football. Oh my God, it's this, it's that. It's an absolute disaster. You know, people, quite frankly, speaking on things they've got absolutely no idea about. And look, these are ideas. This is not saying this is going to happen. This is just putting an idea. These are ideas forward, you know, verbalizing ideas. No one's saying any of these things are going to happen, but people are just going absolutely mad. Oh, Americanizing football, this and that. Nonsense. As an investor in sports, I have the ability to drive emotions and outcomes. The top football brands are well equipped to grow in value. The NFL is probably worth 200 billion. Netflix is 400 billion. So the question is, would you rather own the NFL or Netflix? And my bet would be on the NFL. They will continue to create great content. Now, if you look at football in Europe, there's an evolution ongoing. The stadiums were built with an old utilitarian mindset. And what you are going to see is more professional sports coming to Europe, like the NBA. And the product will evolve and provide new revenue opportunities. And if you grow revenue, you grow value. There is a bit of an unorganized landscape in European football, which reminds me of the retail sports network market in America. There is a handful of things that need to be sorted. One of the challenges is relegation in football. It's hard to price. If everyone was equal, you'd have a 15% chance of relegation, but everyone isn't equal. So you have to work out how best to address that valuation challenge. Relegation is cultural and not going anywhere. So people seem to sort of miss that, like ignore that. I'm seeing them saying, oh, he's trying to get rid of relegation and this and that. He's literally said he's not going anywhere. So why not every season when a team is in the EPL, you get one share of EPL stock, and even if you go down, you keep that stock? Look, it's just an idea. I don't know if it's a good idea or not, but no one's saying this is going to happen. It's just an idea that's being floated out there, which potentially might help clubs that go down. But people losing their minds over all these comments. Oh, it's Americanizing this. People are like taking shots at countries. People need to be very careful about what they're saying and actually make sure they understand what they're saying rather than just losing their minds. But the problem is, guys, is that, look, I'm not a huge Todd Boehly fan. I prefer Todd Boehly to Dissecting Boehly and Clearlake, but I'm trying to provide balance here and trying to give both sides of the coin, you know, rather than just being so ingrained in one way of thinking and just shutting out any balance or any alternative viewpoint. But look, people, those are my thoughts on Todd Boehly's comments from the Financial Times Business Summit yesterday. Some things I agree with, other things I don't agree with. But ultimately, you know, owners don't speak that often. They're never going to please the fans or everything they say. They're never going to cover all the topics that the fans want covering. But when we start microanalyzing everything, you know, and picking apart every single word and every single sentence, you need to understand that there's a reason why these guys don't speak that often, because everything they say, whether it's right or wrong, gets microanalyzed by everyone just to try and drive their agendas and drive their narratives. So that's my thoughts on it, guys. Whether you agree or disagree with me, you know, is open for debate. I know people will disagree. Some people will agree with me. No problem. But yeah, that's just my thoughts on it all, guys. Make sure you smash the like, subscribe if you're new around here, all of that good stuff. And we'll catch you again in another video soon. Up the Chelsea, and we're out. Peace.